Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Revenue Throughput Podcast. I'm Jose Palomino, your host, and today we'll be interviewing Victor Antonio. And Victor is a dynamite sales expert. And we're going to hear some real insights, especially on this topic of what is changing now and what does a sales professional, sales team, whether you're one of a two-man team in your squad or you're part of a 100-person team in a larger company, doesn't matter, or you're in leadership, what you're going to hear are some golden nuggets, words to the wise onto how to adapt in this new and very fast-changing world that we're in sales. So buckle up. Victor Antonio is next. Well, welcome, Victor, to the Revenue Throughput Podcast.
Jose, thank you for having me, man. Super excited to be here with you, man.
No, absolutely. Feel exactly the same way. And Victor, as always, I always like to provide context for my guests and for my audience in your own words. Who do you serve primarily, and what do you do for them?
That's a big question. Let me just say how I started out. I started out in the technology industry, right? So my background is electrical engineering, got an MBA. I started out as an engineer, realized real quickly that the sales is where the money's at. And then I started traveling international, and I focused, one of the biggest markets I focused in on early on was Latin America. And, back in 2001, I said, you know what, I'm going to do my own thing, and I want to go out and be, Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn were my idols, especially Zig Ziglar. And so I wanted to be a speaker, trainer, wanted to write books. I wanted to really just, really write books on motivation because, I really believe that the mindset is everything with regard to sales, business success. And then I started focusing more on what I was good at, which was sales. And so I work with companies. My sweet spot is if I'm working with technology companies, I like technology companies, whether it's helping them build their sales process, or in many cases, a majority of my business is just doing keynotes for them, right? Mm-hmm. Coming in and saying, all right, here's how we do it. Let's roll it up. But small, medium-sized business owners are also kind of my favorite, because I think they're more open to change and they're more agile, if I can use that word, and you can really work with them. So I like working with people who don't have a sales process, need one, don't have sales consistent, so I can help them be more consistent. But I'm the guy that, man, if you bring me in, you better be ready for like a storm to happen, because I roll up my sleeves. I'm like a mechanic, like a sales mechanic. I'm like, all right, let's figure out what's wrong. Let's do it.
I love it. And, for those who haven't, if you're listening and you get a chance to look for Victor on his site and on YouTube and stuff, Victor's a dynamic speaker that brings the sizzle and the steak. And one of the reasons we're so excited to have you on the show today, Victor. So let's take it up at a level about mindsets. Let's start there a little bit, right? So I've heard different things. One is that, the buyer is 80% through their journey before they even reach out to a potential seller, right? So like by the time you get the inquiry form filled out, or they made a phone call, they kind of decided to shortlist you one of two, one of three if they're talking to you at all. Sure. So, how does mindset play into something where now it's not like you have a 1-year relationship build, but this might be moving on the boogie train. They're making a decision 30, 60 days. What kind of mindset do you as a modern seller today have to be successful in that environment?
Dude, you're funny, man. You said boogie train. I haven't heard that phrase in a long time. Boogie train. So there's two types. Well, first of all, let's zoom back a little bit, because I think, I get tired of hearing a lot of sales, quote unquote, experts just talk noise sometimes, because I think everybody kind of starts almost like, sometimes information in the sales world becomes very incestuous. We begin repeating the same things over and over again. And I've heard the whole thing about the buying cycle, right? In 2011, the Challenger sale came out, right? In December, and they talked about it's 57% into the buying cycle, right? Then comes along like Sirius, a couple of years later, says, no, they're like 70% into the buying cycle. Then Forrester comes out after that and said, no, they're like 80% into the buying cycle. The reality is nobody knows. But here's the new reality, is that in the past, sales took a primary role in the sales process and closing deals. I no longer believe that. I used to laugh at marketing, but marketing is now the point of the spear when it comes to selling. And so when I tell people this, they're like, what do you mean, Victor? Does that mean you don't like sales anymore? I said, no, hear me out. I say, the salesperson is the ultimate differentiator in the market today. By that, I mean this, Jose, is that all products have reached the level of product parity or service. In other words, it almost all looks the same, right?
In most categories, yeah.
Right. You'll find a few exceptions, right? You'll find the long tail people, right, on either end of the distribution curve, but everybody's in the middle. and all products look the same. So what happens now is the salesperson now becomes the differentiator in how they present the product, how they help the customer make sense of all this information that's around them because they're overwhelmed. Most people think because the internet's out there giving them information and they're further into the buying cycle, that's a bad thing for salespeople. No. That's a great thing for salespeople because if somebody's 80%, 90%, pick your number, I don't care. When they pick up the phone and call you, Jose, and they're that far into the buying cycle, guess what? They've pre-qualified themselves because why else would they call? And as you say, when they pick up the phone and call you, you've made the short list, right? It's a bake-off now. Obviously, we're not going to talk about discounting price. I'm talking bake-off in terms of the final three. So when they call you, they've done the research. They compared. The folks from Corporate Visions called it their preference formation. Their preferences have been formed as they had all these marketing touch points online. And so if marketing did their job and they posted the right content, videos, case studies, white papers, so forth and so on, by the time somebody calls you to set up an appointment, wants a demo, they're like 80, 90% into buying. They know what they want. They've clarified what they want. And when they reach out to you, they only want three things. This is it. They only want three things. They either want clarification, confirmation, or confidence. Let me go through the whole thing. Clarification. Hey, I read this and I kind of have questions. Can you tell me and clarify things? Oh, yeah, okay, I got that. The other one is confirmation. Hey, so it really does do that. It really can do this and I can get this type of data. Yes, that's confirmation. But here's the important one. The underdog that's underestimated on the 3 C's that I've come up with, and that is confidence. Here's what they're looking for. And this is where you, the salesperson, play a major role. When somebody's talking to you, what they want is clarification, confirmation. But they also want to feel that confidence from you that they're making the right decision. Because it isn't about how you feel about your product. It's how your customer sees your product or sees themselves using the product. And so if you can make them feel good about that decision, give them the confidence to make a buying decision, that's what's happening in the market today. So marketing now has taken a prominent role when it comes to forming these preferences online through all these multiple touch points. And then when they get to the salesperson, all they got to do is, I got to say, marketing has put the ball on the tee. All you got to do is hit it off the tee and not screw that up. So I think what you're seeing in sales today is this process of how customers find you. And once they find you, how much research have they done will determine whether it's going to be an easy close or a harder close.
But on that last part, and I love the example of, marketing's put it on the tee.
Sure.
But there's a whole lot of skill in how you hit the ball off the tee to whether or not you shank it or it's actually a hole in one and so on. So that confidence building is not just me telling you more about the stuff that you already read about. We wouldn't be having a conversation.
That's correct.
If you haven't already absorbed all that stuff. And
right.
So you may have some particular questions, some application questions. I want to be sure this is what I thought. So you come in the 8mm size, not the 72mm, whatever those questions are.
Right.
So I got to be able to answer that as a salesperson.
Correct.
But beyond that, they're also trying to, if I'm hearing you correctly, Victor, the buyer's also sizing up. Do I, as the seller, actually think this is a good fit for them?
Correct. There's two things going on is that, and again, I think it's Brent Adamson over at, I forgot. He used to be CEB that was bought out by Gartner, right? He talks about sense making. And I love that phrase because what happens is people don't want to be told. People don't want more information. People don't even want more insight. Remember, I always put things in threes. And the first thing is people wanted information. Well, the internet has given you plenty of that. So now we've confused the client. Well, then the new trend 4 or 5 years ago is, dude, give them insight, information beyond the obvious. Tell them stuff they don't know, right? But now everybody's generating insight. And so I say there's the third eye, right? There's information, there's insight. And the third eye is that its impact. Tell me how this is going to impact my business, increase revenue, reduce costs, expand market share. That's what the salesperson needs to say. Look, listen to me. You almost want to virtually grab by the scruff of the neck, right? And say, listen to me. You're not understanding. Here's how it's impacting your business. Here's what you're not seeing. Let me kind of shift your perspective because you don't understand what I'm trying to tell you. That's what customers want today. This is not about controlling the sale, not talking about that. This is not about you telling the customer what to do. Is you basically showing the customer, look, you're not thinking about this the right way. And that is a skill that salespeople have to develop. And I think that's where they become differentiators. I don't know if I answered your question, but that's how I see.
No, but that's incredibly helpful because that last part, that impact, right? It's going beyond what marketing has already put out in terms of here's the typical ROI of our X 9000 machine or whatever, right? And here are the case studies to validate this is how much Pepsi saved on using this for bottling or whatever the thing was. but you're going beyond that. You're actually saying, as a salesperson, if I'm listening carefully as we're dialoguing, as I get to know you and I've gone deep into your
Mhm.
case, I'm actually going to draw out from you maybe some observations that are not obvious to you as to how this can benefit you, how it's
Right.
going to work for you. In effect, that word, I love that word, impact. That's what's
Right.
the impact?
Yeah. It's funny because when you look at, you know, the word trust never goes out of style. The word trust never goes out of style, right? And I struggled to come up with a definition or a formula for trust, but I think I've done it, Jose. I think I've
Okay,
got it.
here it comes. Here
So,
it
so
comes.
here's my three-part formula for trust. In order for you to trust me as a seller, right? For you to trust me, the first thing you need to know is that I've taken your POV, your point of view. Like I really understand what you're going through. The customer has to know that you understand what they're going through, right? That's the point of view. The customer goes, okay, Jose understands. He gets what I'm going through. Add to that, you got to demonstrate expertise, like you're a subject expert, right? A domain expert in whatever you're talking about. Simple example would be this. We had a guy come over. We had a problem with the roof. We want to do a new roof. He comes over and he listens. He's listening. He's taking our point of view. He goes, okay, I get it. You're concerned about this. You're concerned about that. Truly understands. Then he moves to the expertise piece. And the expertise piece came in when we asked certain questions. He goes, no, you don't want to do that. If you don't want to spend that much money here, but if you do want to spend money, I would spend it over here on the ridge vents and not this. And I was like, oh, didn't know that. That was the education piece. He demonstrated his domain expertise. The third part, which most people I think kind of miss, is there first you take their point of view. I empathize with them, be in a position to educate them as an expert. The third one is a real subtle one, and that is have their best interest in mind. Now, by that, I mean is you're looking out for their pocketbook. You're looking out for their budget. You're not trying to sell them everything. Now, we all want to upsell. We all want to cross sell. We want to increase the average deal size. But when a customer understands that you're not trying to reach into their pocket or deplete their budget, that you're really trying to give them the right size solution, that completes that trifecta. If you take my point of view, demonstrate that you know what the hell you're talking about, and you know you're looking out for my budget / pocket. Because if I told you I had a $500,000 budget or $50,000 budget and you stay within that, you respect my budget. And I think those three things develop trust over time as you engage a client.
And what I love about that too, because and I had a recent interview talking about the old adage of people want to do business with people they know, like, and trust.
Right.
And the pushback was, well, they may not know you that well. They may or may not like you, but if they trust you, they can still buy from you.
I think that's perfect because I get tired of this whole like relationship selling. And I think that whole look, the Challenger sale, the book, the reason I refer to that a lot, because that book, before that book, Spin Selling was the book. 1987, Neil Rackham's Spin Selling was the book, right? Situation, problem, implication, need, payoff. The internet wasn't really taken off back then, or even available. Fast forward, the Challenger sale comes along and it says several things. When it looks at the 5 categories of sales types out there, the relationship salesperson did the worst in all these categories. Whether it was a complex sale or a simple sale, it did the worst. Why? Very simple. Because in today's market, clients have so many options, right? And access to so much information that all of a sudden you want to have a relationship. They're going, wait a minute, I got 100 people calling me a week. I don't have time to have a relationship with everybody. I don't need you coming in and doing a discovery that lasts for 5 hours, asking me about 1,000 questions. I don't want that. What I want you to do, Jose, is when you come see me, tell me how you're going to impact me, right? It's going to impact my business, right? And Jose, if we implement your solution and it works out and I make money, you know what? I want a relationship with you, right? So the relationship is a result of you completing or delivering value to clients, not the other way around. Let's have a relationship, then I'll create value. No, we create value, then they'll want a relationship. And I think that's the big flip.
Right. So it's the creating value that is your basic currency to
That's
either.
correct.
How do I even know I want to go golfing or lunch or let alone go on vacation with you?
Yeah.
If you do, what have you done for me? And who are you? And there's a lot of people I probably want to do those things with that I don't have time to do with anyway, let alone one more person, right?
Yeah, that's it.
You mentioned Challenger, and I've often found that with Challenger in particular, it can sometimes be misapplied in this regard. People take it as, and I've seen salespeople do this, which is, it's almost a license to be disagreeable or to be always like in somebody's grill, showing them how they're wrong, because you want to be this challenger.
Right.
And if
Which is wrong, which is not what they said in the book, by the way.
no, I understand that, but
Yeah.
it's often how I hear it get practiced. It's almost
Correct.
like, you have to show in and show somebody they're all wrong. You're doing it all wrong. And I'm thinking like, really? That's not, I don't know. Humanly speaking, people don't like that much. And
No.
it can get you to shut down.
It's a
Right.
horrible approach.
It's a
Man,
horrible approach.
yeah, hey, your business approach sucks. You need to change that. Come on, you can't do that, right?
But there's nuance to it. In other words, because you alluded to it, and I'll come back to your 3 parts about building
Yeah.
trust, demonstrating expertise. So I
Right.
just want to dig in on that, because sometimes I work with smaller businesses, and they only have 1, 2, or 3 headcounts to add to their sales team.
Right.
And the owner maybe founded the company, is very technically knowledgeable about what they do.
Right.
And they put a heavy weight on trying to find somebody that has that same background. So they basically end up hiring like an engineer to be a salesperson. So where's the right, in your opinion, Victor, in your experience, where's the right mix combination of sales acumen as a skill set versus product knowledge, industry expertise? Do we need to just have engineers like they do in the, what is it, in the medical, and like the people selling like replacement heart valves? Those are like real, they get PhDs to do that.
Right. Right.
But I just find sometimes that these companies overemphasize the technical knowledge to the expense of sales ability.
I agree.
How do we square that circle?
All right, that's a big question. So I'm going to parse that question out because there's several answers to that. So let's go all the way to the high complex sales, right? I came from the telecom industry, and it gets very complicated when you're designing a wireless system or some type of, communication network. You need back in the day, Jose, we did 4-legged calls. 4-legged calls is you had a salesperson who would bring along an engineer, right? That was the 1-2 combination, the 4-legged calls. So in today's market, I think what people are looking for is that 4 legs to turn into 2 legs, right? This engineer to be good at selling. And it's very hard to find a real good technical person in a very high complex product situation. It's very hard to find that. And so I think there you're always going to, it depends. You're going to always have to do a 4-legged call or find an engineer with the personality, right? I think that was my secret sauce, because I was an engineer, but I could talk. And so I had that combination, and, I'm a unicorn in that sense, right? That's very rare that you find something like that. But as you move down the complexity spectrum, somewhere in the middle, then I personally would hire for sales skill first, right? And then figure out how to teach them technically, because if it's not that hard to use, for example, let's say some basic software, some SaaS product, well, I can teach somebody how to use that, but you can't teach for will and motivation. It's hard to do that. And too often, to your point, a lot of companies say, no, I want somebody from the industry who knows the industry, who has a Rolodex of people, blah, blah. And again, I get it. I've done that. And in the future, and what I've noticed in the past is something very interesting. People who come from the industry are less likely to want to change and learn, especially as we get older. Let's be honest, as they get older, they don't want to change. I rather hire just a hunter. I think in the book, they call it a lone wolf or a maverick, take your pick. Because I think in today's market, we have to hunt more and hunt more aggressively, right? But at the same time, we have to balance that with, you also have to collaborate with your inside team, because you're going to need that support. So I guess my short answer would be, if it's a really high complex sale, I'm going to hire for technical ability first and figure out how to supplement that with some sales skills. But as I move down to mid or low complexity, I would definitely hire for skill first, that motivation and skill to want to learn selling. And if they have that already, then I can teach them product.
Right, you can teach them product, and it depends. Like you said, if you're designing entire like network systems for for countries,
right?
You have to know the stuff at that.
Which is what we were doing. We were designing like, we were talking about Ecuador, Bolivia, and all these countries down there, like Argentina. So we were designing wireless networks and part telecom networks for all these companies, cable networks, and it's not easy stuff. You got to know what you're talking about, and no amount of salesmanship is going to sell that without getting through the technical phalanx, the wall of engineers you have to answer a lot of questions to. So I think, the ideal is to find an engineer who can sell, right?
That's the ideal. That'd be great.
That's the ideal, man.
Right, but there's my word is yes, but you have to test for both, and I find that it's sales acumen, the whole sales ability is from people who don't come from that background. They view it as a very soft and narrow skill set, when in fact it has a lot of depth. It's project management, it's people management, it's keeping complex things in your head very quickly and making, very quick decisions, leadership. It's all those things. I mean, that's your world, Victor. I mean, that's
I like your big title of people management, because I think that's what it is. Do you know what I mean? When you go into a large company, you're trying to sell, depending on whose numbers you believe, 6, 9, 11 decision makers or influencers in a buying decision. That's people management right there. That's sales skills right there. Trying to find consensus, overlapping consensus among all these different influencers. That's people management. That's sales skill right there. So if people think selling is just taking people out to dinner and a game of golf and just saying, what's up, and schmoozing, they got the wrong idea of what this is. This is what I'm saying. That used to be the way it used to be done, right? Relationship selling was really about having those relationships. Today, people want, look, how can you impact my business? Walk me through it. And then after that, we'll go coffee.
And, a lot of those same people you're selling to, they don't even have those kind of relational connection moments in their own organizations. Everyone's too busy. No one is giving any, no one's hanging out, especially now that we're all like working from remotely and everybody's on Zoom, everything's very tightly scheduled and so on. So very quick question here, and just to be our last point for this time. And thank you, Victor. This is some great stuff. I get really excited with it too. As we look out at 2022 coming up and beyond, what's one or two, if you were to say one or two pearls of wisdom that you think anyone who sells for a living should really keep in mind in terms of how the world's changed, what to do, what's different, and so on? What would be one or two nuggets? And, just a word to the wise, as it were.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to what I've already stated, because I think it's that important. And that is, there's so much information, there's so much conflicting information that buyers are confused, right? And as they go through the buyer journey, they're confused. And at the end of the day, they need you, the salesperson, to help them clarify that. So if you're in selling and you want to keep your job, so to speak, then you have to become that domain expert. You have to see all the nuances in, any approach or strategy or solution. You're the person that says, you're kind of a little off here. Let me show you. What I love about the challenger sale, not to give them too, not to toot their horn just too much, but their overlapping circles was tailor for resonance, teach for differentiation, and then, take control, right? The tailor for resonance is saying, hey, here's how it applies to your business. Here's how it's going to help you. The teach for differentiation is where I think salespeople shine, because they're going, you're not seeing the differences. Let me highlight these, and then I'm going to show you how it impacts your business. So I think, with AI, I wrote a book called, the Sales Ex Machina book, how AI is changing the world of selling. Because it is challenging the world. I mean, we're going through one of the biggest digital transformations right now. And most people aren't even aware of it, right? They just think it's just software programming. But I'm telling you, we're going through a revolution right now. You're going to see B2B sales professionals fall off in terms of number of people in that field because of what AI is going to be able to do. But also, part two is, one is be able to differentiate, but two is you got to know the tools. You got to be able to leverage the machinery. Whether it's the sales engagement or enablement platforms, you got to know how to leverage those things. And if you're old school listeners, you baby boomer or Gen X or next Gen X, you're thinking, I don't need to do this. I'm telling you, it's moving in that direction with or without you. So
fast.
One, be able to differentiate, help the client make buying decisions they're having a hard time. Two, use the tools to be able to leverage and connect and actually make good decisions when it comes to closing deals.
Wow. Victor Antonio, thank you so much for sharing with us today. So glad that we could spend this time together.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me, Jose. Thank you.
Yeah. And if somebody wanted to know more about you, your work, where should they go online?
VictorAntonio.com, or just type in Victor Antonio. You will find me, my friend. I'm everywhere.
All right. Fantastic. Really appreciate it. Thanks again.
Thank you, man.
Okay.